Hello everyone, I'm Michaela Kathleen, and in this video I'm going to be recommending books that you can read in a single day. I have done a video where I recommend long series that will keep you busy for a long time, but I have never done the opposite, a video where I recommend books that you can just power through in like a single day or a weekend, and so I thought it was time to remedy that. So jumping right in with the recommendations, my first recommendation is Downsiders by Neal Shusterman. Neal Shusterman is a really popular author with his Scythe trilogy, among others, but I feel like Downsiders hardly ever gets talked about at all, which is kind of sad because this is the first Neal Shusterman book I ever read. I read it when I was pretty young in my early teens, and I didn't read another Neal Shusterman book until I was an adult and I read the Scythe series. And so this is, like, of his books, for me, the one that is like a childhood classic, but I never hear about it anywhere. And it's a really fun little book. It's quite short. My standard for the video was 250 pages or less, so all of these books are 250 or less. This one just barely made it at like 240. In addition to being short, it is also pretty fast-paced. It is about a community of people who are living under New York City. Moving on, next we have a very popular one, and that is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This one is about a very shy boy navigating high school. It was adapted into a really good movie. I think I actually like the movie better than the book. But again, it's a quick read. If you have seen the movie, you can go read the book and it takes no time at all. Next, I have my favorite book of all time other than the Harry Potter series, and that is The Last Book in the Universe by Rodman Philbrick. I highly recommend this one. It is not super well known, but it is, as I said, my top favorite book, and truly it is such a quick read. In addition to being quite short, the chapters are also short, the type is fairly big. This is a dystopian story in which nobody reads anymore. And so that has just always held my fascination. Next, I have a children's story, and that is Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie. This one is, of course, a classic. I didn't love it the first time I read it because it is a classic and it does have kind of that older language to it, which kind of helps it feel like less of a children's story. But my love for the original has grown over the years, and I have grown to appreciate it much more. And the entire story and world in general is one that I'm in love with. Next, I have another obviously short one, but this one is a little heavier of a hitter, and that is The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. This is a World War II story told from the perspective of a child, a German child who is living near a concentration camp, and he doesn't really know what the camp is, and he befriends a boy on the other side of the fence. And yes, it's dark and heavy, but also just a beautiful story about childhood friendship, and the length helps it feel a little bit less heavy. Next, I have another classic, but an adult classic this time, and that is Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Again, I'm not usually super into classics, but this one was really interesting and did have some really beautiful moments kind of juxtaposed with writing that was meant to be not as lyrical, which was an interesting combination to be reading. So a short classic that I would recommend. Next, I have The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, one of my mom's favorite books. Again, this is another kind of high school read about characters who feel like outsiders. So if that is your jam, I would recommend The Outsiders, because again, you could get through it in a single day or a weekend. Next, I have one of my favorite authors, and that is John Green with An Abundance of Catherines. Looking for Alaska is also less than 250 pages, but I wanted to keep this recommendation list at 10 books, so I figured we didn't need 2 John Greens. But I went with this one because the tone matches the length here. It is both short and incredibly light and funny. This is one of the funniest books I've ever read. I don't generally look specifically for humor in my books, but this one really is just so funny to me. And then my final two both rely a lot more on their illustrations. The first of those being The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse by Charlie Mackesy. This was Barnes & Noble's first book of the year, and it is just so inspiring and joyful and all of that. It's just a little sunshine book. It's got adorable illustrations with adorable characters saying adorable things to each other. And then finally, sticking with a more illustrated book and also bringing it back to Peter Pan, we have Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg by Gail Carson Levine. The artwork in this book is just gorgeous, and it's also a fun story, a quick read, but it does have like a little bit more plot, a little bit more story to it than The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. So if you enjoy illustrations but also still want a little more of a plot, I would recommend The Fairy Dust and the Quest for the Egg. And that was it for my short book recommendations. I hope you enjoyed them. Let me know down below if you have any short book recommendations. And now on to the quote for today's video, which today I in fact have one from An Abundance of Catherines by John Green. And it goes, "Books are the ultimate dumb peas. Put them down and they'll wait for you forever. Pay attention to them and they always love you back." Thanks for watching. Remember, words matter.